This is part of a series chronicling our recent trip to Rome and the Greek Isles, and this particular video reflects the conclusion of our cruise aboard Royal Caribbean's Odyssey of the Seas, 4 days touring Rhodes, Ephesus, Mykonos, and Pompeii. Touring Corinth and Athens was a once-in-a-lifetime experience, but more delightful adventures awaited us. The ship departed Piraeus, Greece, gateway to Corinth and Athens, in the late afternoon, and after sailing all night, navigated into its next port of call, Rhodes, Greece. Donald stayed on board to relax and catch up on sleep, while I did a land excursion with EO. The Greek island of Rhodes was home to Agora and Callacium, where the Knights of St. John of Jerusalem lived and worked during the Crusades. Rhodes has stunning churches, an exquisite Jewish quarter, the Inns of the Knights, and the Palace of Grand Masters. Rhodes, the largest of Greece's Dokanese islands, is known for its beach resorts, ancient ruins, and remnants of its occupation by the Knights of St. John during the Crusades. The city of Rhodes has an old town featuring the medieval street of the Knights and the castle-like palace of the Grand Masters, captured by the Ottomans, then held by the Italians. The palace is now a history museum.
On the following day, our port of call was Kusadasi, Turkey, providing access to Ephesus. Turkey was another new country for us. The day's tour included the ancient city of Ephesus and lunch at a rug weaving school. Ephesus is another of the 7 churches of Revelation and was once a bustling port town graced with wide, colonnade-bordered streets and a population of 250,000. Although spectacular excavations have revealed much of the glory of ancient Ephesus, including the huge agora and library, much has been lost. The ancient world once declared the Temple of Artemis to be one of the 7 wonders of the world, but today only a single column remains to mark its site. We climbed step after step to view the terrace houses, also known as the House of the Rich, which provided a true impression of ancient lifestyle, complete with private toilets where sewage was removed by running water. Interestingly, only about 15% of the ancient city has been excavated and cataloged. It was difficult to comprehend, yet amazing to grasp the reality of civilization some 2,000 years ago, the art, architecture, and extravagance. The Greek theater of Ephesus was constructed in the Hellenistic period, about the 1st century AD. It is the largest theater in Asia Minor, with accommodation for 25,000 people, 24,000 seats, and 1,000 standing places. It served not only for dramatic performances, but also for demonstrations of a social, political, economic, and religious nature, and for gladiator games. The theater is often mentioned in the context of St. Paul's visit to Ephesus, Acts 19. Lunch was at a Turkish rug weaving school. The craft of rug weaving was demonstrated, and we were shown a number of professional weavers' wares. Hand-woven rugs were also for sale, and we are the proud owners of one. After rug weaving, we briefly explored the Museum of Ephesus for an up-to-close look at some of Ephesus' antiquities and ancient artifacts. It was difficult to comprehend, yet amazing to grasp the reality of civilization some 2,000 years ago, the art, architecture, and extravagance.
After sailing through the night, the ship moored at Mykonos, Greece. After disembarking, Donald and I walked the waterfront, full of shops and restaurants. There were over a half-dozen cruise ships anchored just offshore. Luckily, the Odyssey of the Seas was able to dock at the waterfront pier, making it much easier to access the city seashore. We really enjoyed the day. No scheduled excursions or activities, as it was sunny with a comfortable sea breeze. Catching a sea bus to the shorefront, we enjoyed people watching, and it was very interesting as there were all nationalities, shapes, and sizes, enjoying the narrow alleyway. I think perhaps Americans were outnumbered, and English was definitely not the first language. The world-famous Greek island of Mykonos has gleaming, whitewashed buildings which seem to climb atop each other to reach the azure sky. Its many hills are dotted with iconic windmills.
The next day we were at sea all day. We were the beneficiaries of a time change last night, turning time back 1 hour. Desperate to occupy spare time in the absence of any scheduled activities of internet, I finished reading the third of 3 books on Kay's Kindle list. These 3 had already been downloaded to our iPads and were thus readily available since we didn't have internet. On the next to last day of the cruise, the Odyssey of the Seas sailed into the port at Naples, Rome. After coffee, we had breakfast at the buffet, basically eating the same things we eat at home, with a few unusual things thrown in, like eggs Benedict and mucilix with granola. Disembarkment was at 8 o'clock a.m. After meeting the guide, we traveled by bus towards Mount Vesuvius and the ancient city of Pompeii to observe the well-preserved ruins and uncover the fascinating history of Pompeii. Pompeii is a preserved ancient Roman city 14 miles southeast of Naples, at the southeastern base of Mount Vesuvius. Around noon on August 24th, 79 AD, a huge eruption from Mount Vesuvius showered volcanic debris over the city, followed the next day by clouds of blisteringly hot gases. Buildings were destroyed, the population was crushed or asphyxiated, and the city was buried beneath a blanket of ash and pumice. For many centuries, Pompeii slept beneath its pall of ash, which perfectly preserved the remains. When these were finally unearthed in the 1700s, the world was astonished at the discovery of a sophisticated Greco-Roman city frozen in time. Grand public buildings included an impressive forum and an amphitheater. Lavish villas and all kinds of houses, dating back to the 4th century BC, were also uncovered. We began a long, guided walking tour of the ancient Roman city's archaeological ruins. With our guide, we traversed the historic excavation site through the city's forum and past grand temples, mansions, and Roman baths. Inside were some preserved remains of people sheltering from the eruption. Others lay buried as they fled. Bakeries were found with loaves still in the ovens. The buildings and their contents revealed day-to-day life in the ancient world and stirred 18th century interest in all things classical. On view were artifacts recovered from the 79 AD volcanic blast when 20 feet of ash and pumice buried the entire city. This was one of my favorite stops.
During the night, the ship sailed a short distance from Naples to our departure port of Civitavecchia, Italy. The last day of the cruise was a very short one, as we were up way too early in order to depart the ship at 5:30 a.m. Because it was so early, we had to manage our own luggage. There was mass confusion as to which exit ramp to take, and we were sent 3 different places before finding the correct one, where we joined others departing the cruise this early morning. We arrived at the airport and passed through Italy's passport check and customs without a hitch. The plane in Rome was a bit late, but the delay was more than made up as we arrived at DFW an hour and a half early. And then it was off to Little Rock, arriving home some 24 hours after getting out of bed in Rome. A long day indeed.
This 10-day sea and land tour of mainland Greece, the Greek Isles, and Turkey led to many significant sights of the Mediterranean. We walked the famous, picturesque towns of Mykonos, Crete, and Santorini with whitewashed houses, blue-domed churches, and beautiful beaches. We sailed across the azure waters of the Aegean Sea and toured Rhodes, Corinth, the ancient city of Athens, Ephesus, and Pompeii, several which are UNESCO World Heritage Sites. The ship Odyssey of the Seas and its crew provided great food and entertainment. Touring Rome and the Greek Isles was a once-in-a-lifetime experience. Thank you for watching. Prayers for a great week. Goodbye for now. And connect with us again next week.